Hey there, this is Mario from shockingfit.com, and in this video, you're gonna learn 5 ways to boost your testosterone naturally. So it is a very famous topic, especially in the last couple of years, even the last couple of decades. There's a lot of emphasis on testosterone boosting supplements, like the testosterone diet, like how to boost with weird South American, Peruvian, or whatever food. And the topic of testosterone, obviously we're attracted to it as men. It's something that identifies us as men, but there's a lot of things to be said about these methods and are they effective, and if there's any real evidence to support these kind of claims. So before we even dive into it, in this video I just wanted to make sure that I put out 5 ways that are scientifically proven to boost your testosterone. So this is what we know so far that works 100%, so no doubt about it. That's before we dive into anything. So on top of that, I want to say that increasing your testosterone by some amount of like 10 to 40, even 50% won't make that much of a difference when it comes to building lean body mass, preserving lean body mass on a diet, or burning more fat. So it's not that much of a difference. Even though it sounds nice, you might feel some psychological effects, but actually tangible difference, there's not a lot of it. So that's just to put out, and just so you guys know that even though these things are cool and all these boosters, and even they might have some minor effects, the main thing you want to do is avoid deficiencies and avoid dropping testosterone under the baseline. And that's something that your baseline is where you want to be at. If you're in normal range between 300, 900 NDLs, you have all the potential to build muscle and lose fat in the world, so you don't need to worry about that. But you want to make sure that you maintain that baseline and maybe slightly boost it. So that being said, what are the 5 ways? So let's start off with way number 1, and that is avoid micronutrient deficiencies, especially when it comes to zinc and vitamin D. So these two play a big role when it comes to testosterone. So let's start off with zinc. It's been shown, there was a study in 1996 that shown in 5 months, they put healthy males on a diet that wasn't rich in zinc. They ended up having a zinc deficiency, and their testosterone levels dropped by 50%. So that's a pretty big amount of drop under their baseline. So as soon as they put them back on some zinc supplements, immediate restoration of testosterone levels, and that's something I recommend. Definitely supplement zinc if your diet is not very rich in red meats or like pumpkin seeds, oysters. And if you do want to avoid supplements, and if you just want to go full natural, these foods that I just mentioned, like pumpkin seeds, beef, lamb, these kind of things on a daily basis will help you get appropriate amount of zinc. So that's something through the diet. Besides that, supplements, fairly easy to get, all wide around spread, especially like ZMA supplements. I recommend taking that. You can take that year round. It's not too expensive. Definitely helps a lot. And there's a point where you could test your deficiency. Definitely I would advise everybody do blood work. But it's not that necessary, especially considering if you're exercising, if you're sweating out a lot, if you're doing intense exercise, you probably are zinc deficient, and especially if you're in a diet. So that being said, zinc covered. Now let's go into vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 has been shown with studies for guys that were taking vitamin D supplements from about 2,000, 3,000 international units per day. They experienced a boost of 25% of testosterone. That's a pretty cool amount. Even better when you think about it, that they kind of prevented deficiencies, which is one of the main things that we want to concern ourselves with. We want to prevent any deficiencies and drops in the baseline of testosterone. Not only that, vitamin D3 plays a big role in mental focus, like the ability to burn fat and all these other things. So make sure to get enough vitamin D. You should be supplementing that year round, especially if you live in a climate where you don't get enough sun, or if you have a lifestyle where you go out a lot, where you spend a lot of time indoors. I myself, I supplement vitamin D3 every single day for the year, and it's fine and definitely something I'd recommend. If you want to avoid supplements, once again, you have to go in the sun 10-15 minutes a day, or one whole day, and then since it's fat soluble, you will actually have an amount that will sustain for a couple of days. But again, most of the population is deficient in vitamin D3, despite the fact that, a lot of people do spend the time in the sun. So definitely keep an eye on that and supplement that. The second thing, second way to naturally boost your testosterone is actually get lean and stay lean. Very obvious, right? So increased body fat levels through the process of aromatization in these body fat cells, your testosterone is turning into estrogen. So if you are above that 15% body fat level as a guy, you definitely want to drop that level at least close to about 10-12% and want to stay there to maintain the natural kind of a balance of your hormones, right? High body fat percentage will disrupt your hormonal balance, and that's there's been a lot of research on that. I'm gonna leave some research in the description below, same as for zinc and vitamin D3, so you can check that out if you wanna nerd out on the PubMed articles. But with this point here, when you're doing that 8 to 15% range, some guys will say, hey dude, like you can't be 8% and not notice the effects. You can't maintain that leanness. Well, it actually depends on the person, right? There are some people that can maintain very high and normal, levels of testosterone at 8% of body fat, and that's possible. And it's very individual, and there's a lot of epigenetics involved, there's leptin levels involved, and some people have high leptin even on low body fat. Look at all the hard gainers, right? They have a very difficult time gaining weight. They have no problem staying lean year round at that very low body fat percentage. So yeah, that's something to take into consideration when you're leaning down, is to actually find your optimal amount between 8 and 15%. It could be 10, it could be 12, it could be 8 as well. And you want to find that amount, you want to stay around that amount, and you want to make sure that you're not going above that 15% threshold. And in that range, the testosterone levels will be normal. Again, do some blood work, make sure to find your optimal body fat percentage amount. Once you find it, you know it, and it's all going to be well. The tip number 3, kind of related to this, when you're dieting down, don't diet down too long without taking a break, because that's going to massively impact your testosterone levels. So they did a study on natural bodybuilders. I'm going to leave the study below, where they took natural bodybuilders on a 6-month prep. After 3 months of a caloric deficit and training and probably some extra cardio as well, because these guys are pretty hardcore, their testosterone levels were 1/4 of the baseline what they started off with. So that's 25% only, right, left after 3 months. So that's a huge amount of the difference, right? So you want to make sure that when you're dieting down, you don't want to take too extreme diets, and you don't want to diet for a very extended period of time without taking a break. That's definitely one of the things that I would say that I made a mistake with. I would stay on a diet for like 6 months, very low calorie. That even just the fact that I was very low calorie made a big difference when it comes to my testosterone levels. And another fact is, like, if you're an athlete, for us athletes, it's critical that we get enough protein. That's one thing. The second thing, you want to train hard, right? You want to go to the gym, you want to hit it really hard, you want to lift, you want to break your PRs, even though you're in a cut. We can't settle down for not increasing our strength or trying to push ourselves in training when you're doing that, even when you're in a diet. And for that matter, we also want to have very high carbohydrate intake. As high as we can possibly, especially if our training involves a high repetition work, and if it was some endurance type of training, you want to maintain those carbohydrate levels for just your energy and your fatigue. So when you do that, your fat levels will have to drop. The fat intake that you have from your diet, because you're limited in calories, right? You want to stay in a deficit, and being in that deficit, fat is the first to go, because 1 gram of fat, 9 calories. So when you reduce fat, these high carb, low fat diets and moderate high protein are very famous now. And for a reason, because under most circumstances, individuals will respond much better to a lower fat, higher carb diet because they're training. There's some forms of when someone has like insulin problem, like insulin resistance or some kind of medical conditions with carbs, then obviously you want to make sure to adapt. In that context, you want to keep it low carb, maybe higher fat. But in most cases, that range of like between 20-30% maximum of caloric content from the fat intake will be advisable for most individuals. And the problem is, when you're on a very low calories, 20% of those calories is not a lot coming from fat, so not a lot of grams. So you want to make sure to not be dieting for a very long time. You want to take some diet breaks. Take it easy, definitely taking care of your testosterone levels. And again, testosterone doesn't play that much of a difference when it comes to maintaining muscle mass, building muscle mass, and losing fat. So investing in carbs which and protein that they help much more with maintaining that lean body mass. And for an athlete, it's kind of a trade-off. So yeah, that's the tip number 3. Tip number 4 is actually managing your stress and avoiding overtraining. One thing I pretty much am guilty of nonstop is not managing my stress levels. And I mean, no matter how lean you are, no matter how much muscle mass you have, if you're stressed out, if you're pretty much screwed, right? That one thing with overtraining is something that I wish I knew before was I don't take enough deloads. I mean, even now, I think I don't take enough deloads. And guys around the world, I mean, in general, we tend to gravitate as human beings toward extremes, right? There's like 80% of guys in the gym are probably under training, and there's that 20% of guys that are really fucking hitting it hard, and they're killing themselves. So the only thing that can stop these guys that are overtraining is either an injury or they're going to get sick. So there's only 2 things. And I was in that category for a very, very long time. And there's only a few guys that are actually training smart and making sure that they don't get overtrained and they're taking proper breaks from training and all these things. So take deloads. I mean, every 8th week of your training plan should be a deload week. That's a week where you take a little bit easy, you cut the sets in half, you reduce the amount of weight, maybe even take a week off, and stay a little bit of active in other sports, maybe some swimming, maybe some other stuff, just to maintain your activity level. But take a damn deload, dude. Like, it's necessary, right? If you're not taking a deload, you're either not training hard or you're overtraining. There's no other way around it. And no matter what your experience level is in the gym, you should be taking regular deloads, and not just for your testosterone, but for your overall well-being and the potential of mass that you're going to gain, and to avoid injuries. Because if you're a natural, you're going to have to be in this game for a very long time. And if you're not taking deloads, it's a very likely, you're very likely to get injured. It's just going to happen. You can't avoid it, right? If you're fatigued and going into training very fatigued and all these things. So the point number 5, and the final thing that I want to say, this is the most effective way to boost your testosterone naturally, and it's the most underused and not underutilized way in the world right now, and that is getting enough of damn sleep, right? So even I'm guilty of this. I was definitely one of those like, oh, I can hack my sleep. There's polyphasic sleep. There's all these things. I could sleep 5 hours. I can hustle more. I can work more. Arnold slept 6 hours, did 2 workouts a day. All this crap you read that people are not sleeping enough, and like all these high achievers and like, I don't know, stars and all these, they never sleep, right? They only work. And one thing I got a little bit intrigued is when I started reading those books about a 10,000 hour rule of mastery. One thing that they didn't say in that study is actually that those people that achieved mastery, they did put 10,000 hours in, but they also slept more than 8 hours per night on average. So that's one thing that most people don't know about the 10,000 hour study, is that they actually even slept more as well, not just practiced more. So one thing there. Second thing, I mean, there's a lot of research out there pointing out, I think they did a research at University of Columbia 2011. They took healthy young males, BMI was solid, they're all good. They put them on a sleep for 5 hours a night. These guys immediately noticed a drop in testosterone from 10 to 15%. That's immediate drop. And I mean, not just that, I mean, there's multiple studies pointing out. There was one that they took a bunch of guys, I think about 20 guys, on a 700 calorie deficit, and they put guys on one group on 5 hours of sleep, one group on 8 hours of sleep. What happened with the 5 hour group, I mean, both groups lost about 3 kilos on a 700 calorie deficit. But what happened is that that group that was sleeping only 5 hours lost 80% of that 3 kilo amount was actually muscle loss, and only 20% was fat loss, while the other group was about 50-50. It's a big damn difference, especially when you're dieting. So you want to get that sleep, not just for testosterone, but also for preserving lean body mass, burning fat, and all these other good things. I mean, general well-being, sleep is the most effective way to get increase in mental focus, working, achieving more. I mean, it's better to put 8 hours of quality work than, I don't know, 12 hours of shitty work where you're unfocused, where you're like ADD, you're not sure what are you doing. I mean, all these things, a lot of people are just focusing on the quantity rather than on the quality. And I would say for me, the one thing that made my last diet very effective was just simply increasing my sleep from 8 to 9 hours. So This is the thing that made the maximum difference when it comes to my diet, and made the maximum difference when it comes to my training in the last couple of months. I was training 6 times a day. I was sleeping 9 hours. I could normally recover, build a lot of muscle, and burn a lot of fat at the same time. So if you want to do that, make sure to get enough sleep. Those would be the 5 scientifically proven ways how to naturally boost your testosterone. One extra bonus one for guys is that you want to surround yourself with attractive women. So there was a study that was actually showing this, that a 15-minute conversation, interaction with a girl will boost your testosterone immediately. And that's something that I would suggest. I mean, get out, work on your social skills as well. That is definitely going to boost your testosterone. You're going to notice the difference. And with that, I want to conclude this video. I want to thank you for watching. And again, if you are applying some of these tips, and I would say is that if you ever test yourself with testosterone, if you find any of these helpful, leave me a comment below. What do you think? If you find some other cool methods, cool ways that you would like to discuss, leave it in comments below. Let's discuss, share, and share some ideas and see what's up, how we can naturally boost our testosterone. Besides that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to click subscribe below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.